No end in sight to the deadly violence that has plagued Indian-controlled Kashmir for 3 months. So far, scores of people have died and thousands more have been injured. As the region continues to be in the grip of protests and clashes, India's all-party delegation that recently visited the rescue region has spoken about the urgency of engagement and dialogue with all Kashmiri parties. On Wednesday, India's Home Minister said New Delhi is prepared for dialogues. However, there will be no compromise on, quote, national sovereignty. Even as the political parties are trying to bring calm, the pro-independence camp has extended its sit-ins and rallies to the next week.
We in Kashmir call upon India and Pakistan to resume dialogue purposefully with a will to achieving solutions of problems in a manner that befits cultured nations of our times. See reason, rise above yesterday, rise above hostility, rise above the subcontinental irony, address the dispute, talk, and find a way out.
As a show of protests, Eid al-Azha, the most important and highly anticipated festival in Kashmir, will not be celebrated this year. Opposition parties slam India's ruling party, BJP, and its ally in Kashmir, the People's Democratic Party, for failing to address the situation.
This government has totally failed in delivering goodness, in controlling the situation. Their management is poor, their direction is poor, their vision is poor.
Meanwhile, members of Kashmir civil society, including High Court judges, call on the region's President Pranab Mukherjee to create a conducive atmosphere for dialogue so the parties can agree on a lasting solution to the current crisis. As tensions continue to simmer in Kashmir Valley, all eyes are now on Indian Prime Minister's visit to Pakistan for SAARC summit in November, where he is likely to meet his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif. But it's still unclear if Kashmir's dispute would be involved in their talks. Saidli Safi reporting for Press TV, Indian Control. Kashmir.
This is AP News Minute. An Associated Press investigation found that most of Hawaii's high-quality seafood is caught by undocumented foreign workers. These workers are confined to boats for years at a time without basic rights or protections. President Obama is attending the meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Laos. He'll also join a summit with leaders of other world powers, including China. Police in North Las Vegas, Nevada, released a video of a homicide suspect in a questioning room, twisting and muscling his handcuffs until they broke. Police say the suspect, Alonzo Perez, escaped on Friday. He was caught again on Tuesday. And a North Dakota judge issued an arrest warrant for Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein. She's accused of spray painting construction equipment during an oil pipeline protest and is charged with criminal trespass and mischief. Sandy Kozel, The Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
Not out here. Yes, sir.
This is AP News Minute. President Barack Obama wrapping up his final trip to Asia this week at his final meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Obama stressed the importance of U.S.-Asia cooperation and the need to hold North Korea accountable for its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Hillary Clinton says the U.S. should hunt down and kill the leader of the Islamic State group. Clinton said Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi should be pursued the same way Osama bin Laden was. Clinton saying, quote, "Nobody directs or inspires attacks attacks against the U.S. and gets away with it. In West Texas, a female high school student fatally shot herself at school after shooting and injuring another female student. Police say that student's injuries weren't life-threatening. There was no immediate word on a motive. And in Delaware, thousands of blank pennies covered a stretch of Interstate 95 after a tractor-trailer hauling them crashed. The truck overturned and caught fire. Police say it was hauling the blanks to the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia. Robert Bumstead, Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
Officials expect to open up 2 northbound travel lanes on I-95 to alleviate traffic from an overnight accident. Northbound traffic was shut down at Delaware 273, causing backups well past the service center. Side roads have also become congested, causing gridlock for most morning commuters. The traffic jams were due to a tractor-trailer that hit a guardrail and overturned, spilling unminted pennies on the highway just before 2 a.m. No serious injuries were reported in the crash.
And now joining us out of Orlando, Florida, for more on the story is Mr. Scott Rickard, a former American intelligence linguist. Hello, Mr. Rickard. Thanks for joining us here on Press TV's Top 5. Now, sir, what are the dangers of these close calls between the U.S. and Russia during a time, that is, when the world doesn't really need another war or conflict?
Well, these kinds of actions have been going on for decades. The Russians constantly would fly next to American reconnaissance aircraft, always within quite close proximity, a lot of times even doing barrel rolls and getting up underneath the aircraft and hitting their afterburners. You know, these kinds of incidents aren't uncommon. Now, what is uncommon is you have the Americans who are continually probing, you know, not only the Russian territories, but also China, Iran, unfortunately, and many other countries around the world with these quote-unquote reconnaissance aircraft. Now, this particular aircraft in question, the P-8, now let's be clear here, this is not a reconnaissance aircraft. It has anti-ship missiles, it has anti-torpedo capability, anti-submarine torpedo capability that is just tremendously outflanks most of the equipment that any other country in the world has. And the fact that they're flying without transponders on and teasing the Russians as they fly towards the Russian border, you know, the Russians are actually showing quite a bit of patience, and they're certainly protecting their sovereignty and their land. You know, certainly you don't see Russians flying warplanes, not reconnaissance planes, but warplanes, planes equipped with this kind of armament right up to the American border, because there'd be a lot of noise, and certainly the Iranians aren't doing that as well.
It's funny you should mention that, because that leads me right into my second question. If Moscow was just miles off the U.S. coast, ghosting U.S. military exercises with similar aircraft, how would Washington respond to that?
Well, I'll tell you, there'd be every news agency in the country would be covering it. They'd be making big news out of this, and they certainly wouldn't be putting it in the point that the Americans were doing something wrong protecting their borders. In fact, what's interesting here is that the Russians are doing nothing wrong. In fact, they've been extremely patient, not just in recent times, but through just decades upon decades. The Chinese have had to deal with, if you look at what happened on Hainan Island when they shot down the predecessor to the P-8, the P-3E, it was actually truly a signals intelligence reconnaissance aircraft. They didn't really shoot it down, there was a collision back then, and that was about 15 years ago. And it's indicative, the Americans, obviously flying very close, if not within Chinese airspace. And unfortunately, in that incident, there was an accident where, oddly enough, the pilot's name was Wong Wei, which in English it sounds like wrong way. He accidentally ran into the P-3. And in this case, the Russian pilots, these are highly skilled pilots. These are fighter pilots. They're some of the best pilots in the world, just like the American pilots. And these pilots are, extremely skilled in what they're doing. And there was absolutely no danger to the P-8 aircraft. And so I believe here what we see here is a true hypocrisy. These aircraft, if this kind of armament was being flown along the American borders, there'd be a massive uprising in not only the media, the government, and the people.
Thank you much for your input, Mr. Scott Rickard, here on Press TV's Top 5. Thank you. Former American intelligence linguist joining us out of Orlando.
Next tonight here, the stunning escape near Las Vegas. The murder suspect left alone in the interrogation room, breaking out of his own handcuffs and then climbing through the ceiling. Officers getting a big surprise when they went back to check on him. And here's ABC's Adrian Banker tonight.
Mr. Perez, you're being held on one count of open murder.
A 25-year-old murder suspect facing new charges after a brazen escape. In this just-released video, watch as Alonzo Perez, left alone by North Las Vegas detectives in this interrogation room, twists and breaks his metal handcuffs using his body weight. Police checking on him moments later but fail to notice he's broken free. While detectives left the room to do paperwork, in less than an hour, Perez manages to climb out through the roof, still shackled by his ankles.
Mistakes were made. We did have a video feed, a live feed, but nobody was monitoring.
Perez is also suspected of being the shooter in this July surveillance video, firing 9 shots into this office, but hasn't been charged. He's currently a suspect in the death of 31-year-old Muhammad Robinson. Robinson's sister stunned at the news.
You let this man escape. How is anybody supposed to feel safe right now?
Police officials have not announced any consequences for the officers involved. Adrienne Bankert, ABC News, Los Angeles.